You want to know how wild suburbia can get? Sit tight, because the last year of my life was basically a true crime docuseries crossed with a neighborhood soap opera, and I was the poor fool caught in the middle. My name's Travis Thompson, 32 years old, just a regular guy who wanted a peaceful life and maybe a slightly greener lawn than my neighbors. You know. Never in a million years did I expect to be public enemy number one to an HOA president with a god complex, or to wind up with my life turned inside out by a woman who made crazy look like a team sport. The whole mess started at exactly 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. My doorbell was going off like someone was trying to perform surgery on it with a sledgehammer, and I shuffled to the door, still in my pajamas, not even awake enough to be annoyed yet. There, looming on my porch, was Brenda Whitmore, the self-declared queen of Ridgemont Hills, president of the HOA, and all-around nightmare neighbor, rocking a lime green tracksuit and dragging 2 giant suitcases like she was checking into a hotel. Before I could get a word out, Brenda just breezes right past me, dumps her stuff in my entryway, and tells me she's moving in for 6 months rent-free. Apparently she'd slipped a notice under my door last week, as if that gave her squatter's rights. I honestly thought I was still dreaming. She starts giving me the tour of my own living room, criticizing my furniture, telling me this arrangement is necessary for the good of the community because my standards were slipping. I'm standing there, arms crossed, just staring at her, trying to process the kind of entitlement that could bend steel. Now, for context, Brenda had been the bane of my existence since I bought my house here 2 years ago. She left a note my first week because my welcome mat was 2 inches off center. The next week it was a citation for grass height. Holidays. You bet she measured my Halloween pumpkin. I'd racked up more violations than parking tickets in New York City. And now this same woman was telling me I owed her free room and board because she'd dedicated her life to the neighborhood. I tried to keep my cool. Brenda, you lost your mind. You want to live here for free because what, you're the queen? She tried to flex, reminded me she was the HOA president with city council connections, said she'd make my life hell if I didn't cooperate. But I'd been living in her version of hell for years already, so I told her real calm to take her bags and go. That's when she snapped. I mean, fully unhinged, shrieking about her rights, calling me ungrateful, stomping around my foyer like a toddler on a sugar crash. She even dropped the "you people" line, and let's just say that told me everything I needed to know about what was really going on under her prim little bun. Long story short, she stormed out, but not before promising revenge. She stood out front for 5 minutes, fuming and muttering into her phone. I figured that was the last I'd see of her. But wow, I could not have been more wrong. Next morning, I find a violation taped to my door. Brenda's signature handwriting accusing me of failing lawn edging standards. $150 fine. The lawn looked perfect, but that didn't matter. Every day that week, more citations appeared: mailbox, angle car parked, 2 straight community aesthetic violations. All total fiction. By Friday, I'd had enough. I called Janet, the property manager. Turns out I wasn't alone. Brenda had been ticketing every single neighbor who wouldn't let her crash at their place or even get this use their pool. 17 complaints in 1 week. And get this, Janet reveals Brenda's not even living in the neighborhood anymore. She lost her house to foreclosure after mismanaging her finances, but because our HOA bylaws didn't have a rule for ousting a president without a home, she still technically had power. She'd been living in her car in the community center parking lot, sneaking around at night hunting for violations. The police had already been called twice. The image of Brenda exiled and obsessed was funny for about 2 seconds, until the flyers started. Neighborhood alert: Travis Thompson undermines community values. She called me antisocial. A criminal accused me of running some kind of distribution ring because I got Amazon deliveries and worked from home. Carlos, my neighbor, showed me one of the flyers his wife found on their mailbox, handwritten "pure unfiltered paranoia." But here's the kicker: Brenda started telling people I didn't fit in around here, dog whistle racism so obvious you could hear it from space. Most people ignored her, but not everyone. Some folks started giving me the side eye, asking weird questions. My refusal to let Brenda move in was now somehow evidence that I was a threat to the neighborhood. After I set up security cameras thanks to Carlos, who wasn't about to let me get railroaded alone, I started catching Brenda creeping around my house at night. She measured my fence, took photos of my garbage cans, tried to peer into my windows. It was so over the line, I took the footage straight to the police. Officer Santos was all business. She saw the video and went from just another crazy neighbor to possible stalker case. When I showed her the stack of citations, she shook her head. "Mr. Thompson, these are not legitimate HOA notices. This woman needs help." And Brenda was just getting started. Next thing I know, she's set up a full-on war room in the community center parking lot with whiteboards covered in conspiracy scribbles, photos of my house, and a crazy flowchart linking me to everything from dropping property values to urban decay. She'd even recruited a handful of neighbors, Harold, Margaret, a couple others to her cause. They ate it up, started watching my house like I was Pablo Escobar. Janet called an emergency HOA meeting to deal with the madness. Brenda turned up with a stack of papers passing out dossiers on me to anyone who'd listen, credit reports, financial statements, all sorts of private info. Turns out she'd hired a washed-up PI named Rick Morrison to run illegal background checks. When he couldn't find dirt, she just made it up. She started screaming that people like me were destroying Ridgemont Hills, and when the rest of the board didn't buy it, she went ballistic, trashed her own displays, hurled a whiteboard across the room, had to be physically removed by police. Total meltdown. Police later found out she'd embezzled over $30,000 from the HOA, paying for private investigators. Flyers, surveillance equipment, all while ignoring her own mortgage, which is how she lost her house in the first place. To cover her tracks, she even tried opening credit cards in my name, but thank God she didn't have my social. She'd been planning to escalate petitioning the city to investigate me, organizing citizen patrols, even launching a boycott of any business that served me. This wasn't just paranoia. This was full-blown warfare. They put Brenda on a 72-hour psychiatric hold, but she played it cool for the doctors, claimed she was just overwhelmed by her commitment to the neighborhood. Meanwhile, the DA charged her with fraud, harassment, and identity theft. Rick Morrison went down for operating without a license. Still, Brenda couldn't let go. She came back with a bullhorn yelling at the entire neighborhood about how I was the real criminal, that the police and HOA were compromised, and that history would vindicate her. That was the final straw. Police arrested her for violating a restraining order. She went off to a state mental health facility, and 3 months later I get a letter from her psychiatrist explaining Brenda wanted to apologize as part of her therapy. Her letter was actually kind of sad. She admitted she'd been driven by untreated anxiety, fear, and a desperate need to control her world. She apologized for the racist undertones, the harassment, the campaign to turn the whole neighborhood against me. Said the HOA was using the stolen money to plant a community garden. Janet thought I'd appreciate the irony. Brenda got 3 years probation, 500 hours community service, and mandatory treatment. Morrison's in prison. The neighborhood finally feels normal again, kids playing, people waving, HOA meetings about real stuff. Brenda's old house, bought by Maria and James Rodriguez, who have 2 adorable kids and the best damn garden I've ever seen. So, if you ever think suburban drama is just about nosy neighbors or lawn wars, let me tell you, sometimes it's a battle for your sanity. And sometimes the real threat to the community isn't the outsider. It's the person who thinks they have the right to decide who belongs. But, hey, that's just my side of it. So what do you think, was justice served, or did things go too far? Let me know what you'd have done. Was I right to stand my ground, or should I have handled it differently? Where's the line between protecting a community and destroying it? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear what you'd do if a Brenda moved in next door.